vehicle that
In 500 feet,
oh, go ahead.
right
I'm
on
good.
Main Avenue.
All right.
Turn right onto Main Avenue, then turn right onto 5th Street.
Anyway, there was a vehicle that pulled up while I was at the corner market or center market and sat there with the lights on, pointed at my vehicle. When I pulled out, they followed me all the way until they thought I was
Head
going to
east
take
on
a
3rd
left
Street
turn,
toward
but I took
Ivy
a right
Avenue,
turn
then
instead
turn
this
left onto
time.
Ivy Avenue. Take the next right onto Stillwell Avenue, then turn left onto 2nd Street.
Not saying they were following me to follow me, maybe they were just coming down this direction.
Turn right onto 4th Street, then turn right onto Grove Avenue.
There's a lot of people being as mean as they are, especially in this neck of the woods. I figure I ought to probably be smart about it. Just check and see, you know. There have been a lot of mean people who decided to follow me places and do mean shit.
In 400
And
feet,
yeah, that
turn
does
left
make me
onto 2nd Street.
paranoid. My evidence is pretty fucking important. My life is not. There's a lot of people that don't seem to understand that. What I'd like is for somebody to take my evidence and use it to turn in some really not good people. I don't want to waste any more of my life on ungrateful Americans. A lot of us are going through hell. And we get to listen to people who have it quite well tell us about how bad they got it. And then there's the working class. Many of them don't think that they make a difference. Well, everybody makes a difference. What example are you setting? That's the most important difference that you make. Not the words that come out of your mouth, but the actions that you commit. And yes, those words themselves are committing to action. If you're gonna say something, be true to your word. If you're not able to be true to your word, if something happens, be honest about it and do so right away. The sooner you do something to change it, the sooner you're making a difference. You know, if you are just a stick in the mud, a Debbie Downer, at least you serve as an example of who not to be. I'll give you credit for that. We got enough examples of who not to be, don't we? We take the worst of the worst and we roll them over and over and over again on TV, don't we? What's the outcome? People being paranoid. I remember in the 90s when they were trying to pretend that all mass shootings were committed by only mentally ill men. I'm like, fuck, you shitting me? One of the first mass shootings in the United States history was committed by a woman. Don't know what the hell you're talking about. Oh my god, that hurts, but I need to scratch my back. One of the byproducts of not getting to take a shower. You get an itchy film and nasty grime. At least I'm used to sleeping outside. How well would I do if I was in Israel? Probably not very good. But at least try. I think Hamas needs to be completely and totally and utterly destroyed. What happened cannot be tolerated. And anybody who's going to harbor or house these terrorists is helping the worst of the worst child molesters, rapists, murderers. That's legit what has happened here. Israel trying to be as kind as they could to Palestine when the Palestinians voted Hamas as, instead of being a terrorist organization, graduated to being a legitimate government in their own right. And look what they've done with it. Israel has been trying to comply with this terrorist organization and two others that are all still vying for power. To some degree, they are slightly in solidarity. And there are, of course, other nations that are joining in on the festivities and stupidities. How many Muslim nations had parties that they threw? How many of them are glad they threw a party now? Every time those dumbasses decide they're gonna fuck with Israel, they get the same stomping. Jesus fucking Christ, just leave Israel alone. Iraq is not worth all of these lives. Are you kidding me? The fact is, these Joes have nowhere to go either. I'm sorry I didn't pronounce that right. I have no teeth. And I'm overwhelmed right now, so I'm having difficulties communicating. I don't know that the vehicle that seemed like it was following me, or could be, I don't know if it's one of them youngins that was fucking with me or not. I don't know if it's any of the vehicles belonging to them because, well, similar ain't the same thing as being the exact same vehicle, is it? You can have two of the very same Toyota Tacoma in the same town. Or two of the same Honda Civic. It happens. Anyway, I'm pretty tired. I might try to get a couple of minutes rest. We'll see what happens. Thank goodness this time I was just being paranoid. A lot of times when I think I'm just being paranoid, somebody shows me that, yeah, dude, you're not being paranoid. People are really that big of assholes. Yes, you're really that good at reading a situation. I'm wrong often enough that I'm not surprised that I get stuff wrong, but I'm right often enough that people really do need to listen. No, obviously, if it's bad enough that people are trying to kill each other, yeah, that's something I got a bad habit of sticking my face into. Like, hey, could we not be assholes to each other for a couple of minutes? Would that be cool? I don't want to see anybody become a corpse. That's not cool. I'm overwhelmed. Hopefully that gentleman I met yesterday can be helpful today. I'm gonna check to see if I got his phone number. Good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper. No victim left behind. You're also your sister's keeper. Someone calling himself John Michaels typed hi, new viewer. Hi, John Michaels. My name is Sean Schwartz. I'm not sure if you came here because of a Natalie Bollinger side or if you're somebody who just happened to cross my channel. Or if you're a troll. I get a lot of those on my channel. I suppose I should say hi, my name is Sean and I'm autistic. I have Asperger's. It's not the same as being retarded. I have Tourette syndrome, so I wink at people sometimes, and I do funny stuff with my wrist, and sometimes I make funny noises that bother people. Sometimes they beat me up for them noises, sometimes they don't. However, because I have some weird quirks, people have a bad habit of being real mean to me. They just assume the worst in me. And of course, I live in the United States of America, where looks are pretty much the most important thing for any decision making. At least any temporary decision making, and most people are either messed up on pharmaceuticals, alcohol, or street drugs. They don't generally think much past 5 to 10 minutes. John Michaels typed, I came here because I saw some of the bullying about you and name calling. My uncle had autism. Well, I'm not sure if you noticed, Mr. John Michaels. I bully back. Before I bully back, I always try getting help. I always try getting help doing it the right way. But also on my channel, you probably noticed that no matter which place I go, they're telling me it's somebody else's job. For a homeless, disabled man to try to turn stuff in, it's getting grilled more than getting helped. It's not people listening, it's people digging for excuses to do nothing. Or trying to defer you from what they're legally supposed to do into something that they can make money from. Like, look at how much of our insurance money is being paid out to therapists when we don't need therapists. Not if they're not going to do their jobs as mandated reporters. Not if they're not going to help us turn it in right away. Not if they're going to play stupid and just tell us to come back in 30 days because they're supposed to, by law, turn it in right away. John Michaels typed, my uncle got bullied a lot like you. My dad makes jokes about him being like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Alright, John Michaels. We're not going to do that. A lot of people do that. And I speak out about it a lot. I get a lot of trolls on my channel who pretend to play nice, pretend like they're friendly people, and then, of course, pretty soon it starts to get to be insult time. We don't need that. Now, maybe you're being real about your uncle and your dad making jokes. Depending on how old you are, it could be very true. I remember Of Mice and Men, and I remember Lenny, and I Get to Tend the Rabbits, and of course the people who started bullying me over that, hardcore, it's because it was something I was speaking out about. And they get on and they push that a whole bunch. John Michaels typed, I'm not insulting you. Alright, cool. The biggest issue I faced is not having people to speak up. There's a lot of people that took part in the situation before and after Natalie's death. People that should have come forward but never did. Just claimed that they would. Someone calling themselves Mimi Lucero made some symbols. Anyway, I suppose I should probably turn off the video now. I do want to make sure I say again that Hamas targeted children in specific. The entire point and goal of their incursion into Israel was to slaughter innocent civilians and steal women and children. Much like the police here in the United States, Hamas chose to victimize people who were unarmed, people who had no chance to defend themselves. In many cases, people that didn't even try to defend themselves. They were just trying to figure out why it was happening. Well, it's happening because their imaginary friend tells them to hate your imaginary friend, and by proxy, hate you. And a bunch of fucking power-hungry lunatics reinforce it by pretending to be holy men who speak for their imaginary friend. John Michaels typed, that was a long time ago though, and my uncle passed away in 2018. John Michaels typed, yeah, it's so stupid, that's why I'm an atheist. I consider myself an atheist as well, but realistically I'm a scientist. I haven't seen any evidence at all to show that there is any God whatsoever. But I will say this. When it comes to Jesus, Jesus is my favorite character of any book ever written. There's a reason for this. He's a wonderfully written character. and he loved human beings. Oh yeah, and his existence is reinforced by the Romans themselves. He was a very real person. If I think of Jesus as another human being, as Jesus said he was, Jesus said we are all the children of God, are we not? He referred to himself as the Son of Man. Is an 80-year-old man going senile in prison on Cyprus the major reason for the whole, oh well, in Jesus' name, he's the one and only Son of God? I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about any of that. If I thought that Jesus was some magical being that could just think things into existence, yeah, I wouldn't like Jesus in the least bit. Jesus did great things for human beings in his lifetime. Whether any of those quote unquote miracles are true or not, I don't care. It's the fact that he was a human being who tried. He tried teaching humanity. The Bible doesn't say that he whipped people. It says I've read the Bible many times and I've read multiple versions. My favorite version is the King James Version. These, thys, those, and thous. I also like the way British people speak better than I like the way American people speak. Because when British people speak to us, it's generally very direct, very to the point, and the sentence structure is more specific. The American version of English isn't even close to English. It's a bunch of references, inferences, infurls, and, well, rough guesstimations of what you're just going to assume somebody's saying. Americans tend to not let other Americans finish their sentences, so we don't have actual conversations. What we have is intermediary sentences interrupted by other intermediary sentences. And then because people don't get to finish a complete thought verbally, it's basically an argument where everyone's trying not to be rude about the fact that everybody's offended because everyone talks over everybody. It's so horrible that we have to have courts to allow people to speak, because inevitably one person is just going to be talked over, yelled over, or abused over. And of course, you want to change keywords, don't you? Well, so do we. Americans tend to call other people mentally ill as an insult and say, oh, well, I have PTSD. How dare you? You're mentally ill. Well, I have PTSD too. So if you're going to call me mentally ill for having PTSD, I'm going to call you mentally ill for having PTSD. Now, neither of us are being helpful to one another. Your predator got away because you're a punk ass. And of course, my predator got away because I'm a punk ass back. Case in point, Shea Burton, who tried to protect her when she was being choked out. It wasn't me. I wasn't there to see it. I just have to take her word for it. Oh yeah, and the words of probably, I don't know, a dozen or so other witnesses at least. A bunch of people that just watched. Anyway, I've seen that vehicle there a couple other times, and them keeping their lights pointed at my vehicle until I leave. They've done that more than once. And they've followed me out of there more than once when I've left. So I was just trying to be on the safe side. Also, like I said, it might not even be the same vehicle. Oh, someone's typing on here. Let's see. John Michaels typed, yeah, I have family in the UK and I can't understand them. The Brits don't talk over us, don't we all? We do. We absolutely do. Brits tend to listen to try to understand American speech, and they tend to get it a lot more than Americans do. We're very ADHD with our speech. Attention deficit squirrel. Then, of course, our cops here, they're not about getting down to the bottom of business. Their tactics don't work on hardened criminals. They only scare the hell out of people who have PTSD. Now, the story with Shea Burton, she used to be a friend, sort of. She was actually a bully when I first met her. She was going out with a guy named Theo. Ooh. Well, what was Theo's deal? He thought he was a big Billy badass gangster in the mean streets of Boulder, Colorado. He was also pretty big, and his wife was tiny. Anyway, he'd bully people, and she'd get right in there with him and bully people. They'd do it as a group. When I say as a group, I mean not just her and her husband. By the way, her husband, after choking her out, and everybody wanted to come tell me about it. Yeah, I did want to get to the bottom of it, because that makes things bad for all of us homeless people. You do that out in public at a place like the library, that makes it bad for all homeless people, especially homeless men. Women might get sympathy out of it, but that's going to be reflected on all homeless men by the community. Whether you intend it or not is arbitrary. In that situation, innocent people are going to be harmed. And it's horrible that people want to blow off the victims and say, hey, you need to just mind your business. Well, it is all of our business as a community, especially when we're the ones who are going to have to pay the consequences. We're the ones who have to pay the piper when you're a fucking piece of shit. Now, one thing that I've been on a kick for a few days is the situation between Israel and Palestine. I don't give a fuck about any of the adults in the engagement at all. Once I'm over there, maybe I'll get to meet some that I'll give a shit about. What I give a shit about, though, is the children. Hamas is so horrible that I would liken them to being like the United States. We like to slap people around, bully people. Isn't that what our government does? Send our troops elsewhere, tell us they're fighting for our rights and our interests. Meanwhile, I'm pro Second Amendment. That's because I see who it is that the cops mess with and who they don't mess with. They're a lot less likely to mess with people they know to be armed. And if they do know you to be heavily armed, they'll show up in force and announce themselves. Not sure if you've ever seen the ATF and their boys invade somebody's property to make sure they don't have any illegal firearms. There's quite a few YouTube videos about them doing that stuff. I'm pretty good at making stuff. And if folks in a place like Kiev or Tel Aviv or even the Gaza Strip had even just a place to build stuff, I could scavenge and construct the tools necessary to facsimilate a lot of different shit. If I needed to, do I have the knowledge and understanding of the processes of making an RPG-7 to be able to do so? No. No, I don't. Do I have the ability to make something that'll look just like it and perform just about the same? Yeah, I do. I couldn't make the sight, but I could make the projectiles. I could also make the projectile launchers. For a good portion of it, I could scavenge stuff. For the majority of the stuff necessary, I know how to get it out of the natural terrain based on whether or not there are any resources there to harvest. I have a basic understanding of how aluminum is harvested, and I would not be able to do that. But I could identify iron and rock and extract it. I know how to make sheet metal. If I had to make an RPG-7 arms manufacturing plant from scratch, and whatever I could salvage, yeah, I'd be able to do so. I have the intelligence and the understanding to be able to set my mind to making a lot of different things, but I choose not to. I choose not to carry a firearm because I believe the First Amendment is the most important. And if you're willing to harm somebody to prevent them from having their First Amendment, you don't deserve the First Amendment or the Second Amendment because you're a tyrant. I may not like what you have to say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Now, that's a famous quote. And I do believe that my predators have the right to speak, and they have spoken, and you've heard them. Let's see. Mimi Lucero typed, yeah, it is so annoying, and when you tell them something, they don't do anything. John Michaels typed, Ruby Ridge being one of the examples. Well, there's plenty more, even worse examples, and that's the sad part. You never hear any of the stories out on the streets of people being murdered who are unarmed. A lot of homeless people carry knives. I don't. I have a vehicle and tools. I have utility knives somewhere buried in this trash pit. One thing that's eternally being wasted because my back is screwed up is my gasoline. I am constantly spending mass quantities of money on gasoline. Keep my stuff charged. Try to almost keep myself warm, except that the heater fan doesn't work anymore, so there's no reason to turn on the heater. John Michaels typed, unless if they're housed. You know, if you're housed, you get lots of rights. Or at least you're supposed to. But I know a lot of people that are housed that get bare minimum rights because they're bare minimum housing. When I was in housing, I still had more rights than somebody on the streets, but only just barely, and only if someone cared. Which nobody who works for the government or gets government funding actually gives a shit about you. Most of them are so overstocked with bullshit, they don't want to pick any more fucking cases up. They want to break from the cases, but they still want to get paid. And there is such an incredible amount of money to be paid out for quote-unquote mental health help, that when somebody is being victimized, the police want to send these people to mental health because they don't want to do their fucking jobs. And mental health doesn't want to do their jobs as mandated reporters either. What do they want to do? Set you up for therapy 30 days away, so they can tell you to come back 30 days after that. So they can tell you to come back 30 days after that. This costs the American taxpayers money. And these people pretend it's a free service. In addition to that, it also costs you money. You got to keep money to keep the phone. You got to keep money to keep it charged. You got to keep money to keep gas in the vehicle to go to appointments if you're able to get one. Only to be blown off if you're single and a male and alone. Women with children are a top priority, and I understand why. But at the same time, we got to understand which women we're being so kind and generous to. With a lot of situations, there were friends of mine that had been my friends for a lot of years. Sorry, my back's killing me and I'm trying to put up a blanket. A lot of people who had been my friends for years harmed their children. Now, did I choose my friends or did I choose their children? I chose their children, of course, as they should have. Hey, asshole, your daughter is not a sex toy. Hamas has not decried any of the crimes committed by its soldiers, and these are crimes. This is a government that, despite what everyone else told Israel, hey man, these people are terrorists, they're terrorists, they're terrorists. But Hamas became a legitimate government, and Israel has been supporting its legitimacy despite the crimes committed by Hamas against them. Over and over again. Meanwhile, there's also two other governments that, although they lost the elections, still seem to want to flare up and start fights. This is the one time that they've all been in solidarity. Let me tell you about the 22 cricket, or the Keystone 22 single shot. If you fire the Aguila Triple S round out of it, it's got a lot of weight behind it. It's the Triple S stands for Sniper Subsonic, but it's still pretty loud. And that gun doesn't have a silencer on it, or a silencer attachment, or any way to mount a silencer on it. Matter of fact, there isn't a can that's made for it. There ain't no reason for a child to need a silencer on a training weapon. And that's exactly what that thing is. Now, the reason I like them so much is because they're super accurate. And if you hit any of the weapons that the opposition are most likely to have, It's got enough mass behind it, and it's traveling slow enough, it'll do impact damage. Somebody points a gun at a kid, you shoot the gun. Someone pulls a grenade out and pulls the pin on it with the intent of throwing it at children, shoot the grenade. Am I that good a shot with a moving target? No, not even close. I'd be better off digging up landmines. That'd probably be a better job for me. Clearing landmines so that kids don't walk over them, and so that troops who are going after Hamas can safely do so. Oh shit, yeah, I'm totally down with that. You want to set me up at a border crossing with a Remington 700? I'm down with that as well. Hamas fucked up and they fucked with kids. They don't get my forgiveness anymore. I tried to think of them as, well, something other than a terrorist organization, but they showed that they don't give a shit about human life, not even the lives of their own people, or supposedly their own people. It's about private agendas and private vengeances among the people who have decided. Well, I don't even want to talk about the horrible atrocities they've committed. See, you guys are probably typing at me and I'm trying not to ignore you. Alright. It doesn't look like that vehicle drove around a few times. It doesn't sound like they've been yelling anything at me, so I'm glad for that. Seems to me that tonight ought to be a hopefully slow night. Maybe I shouldn't have taken my shirt off. Now I'm wanting to scratch everything that I've been resisting scratching for like 3 weeks. I need a fucking shower so bad. Anyway, my name is Sean Schwartz. My address is P.O. Box 701, Tillamook, Oregon. Again, it's Sean Schwartz, Tillamook, Oregon, P.O. Box 701. My birthday is October 18th. I'll be 43. If y'all watch this through the video, you might actually give a shit about me or the situation. If you do, you tried to send me a couple of bucks, I'll be thankful for it. If you don't want to send me money because you're afraid that all homeless people are junkies who are going to go spend it on smack or booze, you can send me a Shell gift card. I can use a Shell gift card to get gasoline, and I'll even show you on my YouTube channel if that's what I spend it on. Good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and your sister's too, and no victim left behind. Mimi Lucero, type good night. Hopefully you have a wonderful sleep. I hope so too. I'm not likely to sleep though. I'm in too much pain and I'm fucked with enough that I'm afraid to go to sleep, and I have been for years. I got scars and bruises and even burn marks now to prove it. Now, I do want to defend the people that threw the gasoline on me and flicked a cigarette at me, because they're not the ones that lit me on fire. My own incompetence is what lit me on fire. They attempted to light me on fire, and their incompetence is the reason that I wasn't lit on fire to begin with. Throwing a cup full of gasoline on me. Yeah, I stuck my left arm out, because that's the one that I was, of course, not holding on to stuff with. I was picking up firewood right as it was getting dark. And of course, when I set it on the fire, I disturbed some of the coals. It had apparently been used either the night before or maybe that morning. More likely the night before. And a lot of people don't know that you can keep a fire alive for days doing that. So in order to keep fire from flaring up, the least you can do is piss on it if you got nothing else. But you should pour it out with water and make sure that it's completely out. You say the way you're supposed to do that is keep on pouring water on it until it stops hissing. So what I do, I didn't check the fire. It didn't look like it had been rained on since it had last been used. Some of the coals that were on top were still black. They weren't white. There was a lot of white coals on top, so that makes a good insulator. So I just disturbed the hot spot while I was putting the sticks on the fire. And since my left arm was covered in gas, it lit up. Now, part of that was also due to the effects of breathing in gasoline for like 20 minutes. There's also the fact that people throwing gasoline and flicking a cigarette at me while yelling at me, it kind of, well, that got me worked up too, so it made me breathe extra heavy, which I'm sure wasn't good, with gas on the side of my face, all over my left arm, down my left side. I'm surprised I didn't injure my genitalia, because, like, literally almost my whole left side, just barely past my crotch, was on fire. Well, mostly down the front, I should say. I don't know if my back was on fire at all. I didn't feel any fire back there. I just saw it on the front of me on the left-hand side. Now, I probably could have been smart and taken off my shirt instead of lighting myself on fire. But it's obviously not something I did on purpose. There was also a feller I was going to go help out today. I didn't get to do that. There was a feller who was going to help me move my stuff out of my vehicle, and well, I tried sticking around for that too. I told him this morning that I'd turn in his cans for him. I did that too. As soon as I got done with it, went back to my vehicle. That's when he was there. I was like, yep, well, here's your tickets. Mimi Lucero typed, what was your P.O. box again? It's P.O. Box 701, Tillamook, Oregon. And I'm not sure what the area code is, but you could probably look it up pretty easy. I'm sorry I don't have it memorized. I got a lot of stuff I have to try to memorize, and it's overwhelming the more gets added to it. Also, if you care about the situation with Natalie Bollinger, and that's the reason you came here, you can type up, I'm sure you can see my username on here is Dogged Roman. Just type doggedroman@gmail.com. And if you send me an email, let me know who you are. I'll forward a message from Natalie Bollinger from before she was killed, so you know what kind of friends we were. Be safe. Mimi Lucero typed, okay, thank you. Alright, good night.